You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hello, welcome back to the Bright Life Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson, and today I want to share something that has helped my creative journey and my journey of writing my first book, which has been a dream of mine since I was a little girl. I just didn't know what the topic would be or what the timing would be. But there's a nugget in this that I have realized over and over again that may be supportive to you on your creative journey as well. And that is this concept of letting things kind of marinate, like permission for an idea to marinate. And I wish there was a better, more less gross term than marinate. Kind of reminds me of like chicken, but it's really what it is. And so I started to notice this actually way before I ever wrote my first book, when I was doing a weekly blog every weekday. And, I'd get these ideas. When you're pumping out 5 posts a week, you are constantly thinking of ideas. I was jotting them down in my notes. I was writing them everywhere kind of for later. And what I noticed is sometimes I would be really, really clear on an idea right away. And I would be able to write the whole post and have it go out the door. And other times I would get to a place in writing or even in coming up with an idea when I felt like it just wasn't quite there yet. You're like, I want to write this. I have the time. I have the energy right now, but there's just something missing to pull it all together. And so I applied this idea later to my own book because what I would find inevitably in that blog process is that eventually I would have all the pieces come together. Like if I just let the idea sit for a few weeks or kept it on that notepad, I would find a conversation. I would be driving thinking about something and it would click. I would run into someone at a networking event and all of a sudden it makes sense, or I'd have another experience where I felt like I could finally tell the story a little bit better for that blog post. And so I really began to trust that process of creating an idea, putting it out there, and then letting it marinate until it really felt ready to be fully cooked, fully baked. So when writing my first book, I did something similar, and I want to share this with you in case you also have a dream to write a book or a screenplay or a speech or to be the next whatever it may be, even just to come up with your business idea. And that is to just, set the intention. So put it out there. I knew without a doubt that I was going to write that book. I was clear on that. So for you, what intention can you put out there? Something that you want to put out in the world. And then 2, set the intention for that you want a really good idea to come to you into your awareness. And what eventually happened for me is I was on vacation in Mexico, of all places, and at all times, because it wasn't when I was hustling, it wasn't when I was grinding, working, it was really when I was looking out at the ocean, reading another book, just kind of daydreaming. And that's when the idea hit. And so for you, I think it's the same. It's put that idea out into the universe, set that intention out there, and then give your brain some white space to operate in. So, maybe it's when you're driving and you just let yourself kind of think. Maybe it's when you take showers. Maybe it's going on a walk every day. Maybe it's just taking a vacation if it's been a while, like it had been for me. And giving your brain the white space to think and to make those connections. Because if you're always pushing, and there is something to be said for working really hard and taking whatever steps you can see up until the point where you can't see anymore, but if you are always just pushing, getting input, you never allow that to integrate in your mind. It's even like in seasons where I'm learning a lot and I'm reading and I'm absorbing. afterwards, I usually have a season where I lose total interest in books. I can't listen to one more podcast episode. I really need a few weeks or months, whatever it may be, to integrate what I've just heard. And I think that's just points to like the natural balance of things, where if you're always pushing, always working, always striving, you're not giving your brain the creative space to tie it all together and to see patterns and associations and have this experience and this conversation and this story lead into something concrete and something that ties together. So those are kind of the steps that I've applied, where it's one, you put the intention to do the thing you want to do. Two, you kind of ask for help. You invite into your awareness a big idea. I actually heard of some other authors doing this too. I can't remember who it was. Oh, I think it was the business owner, Sarah Blakely. In her masterclass, she said something about asking, inviting in $1 million or $1 billion business idea. And then she ended up going and founding Spanx, the shapewear line, which, is worth $1 billion plus. So it's almost like just being so bold as to invite that into your awareness. And then 3, create the space for it to come in. Create the space, whether it's on your commute, whether it's on a walk, on a vacation, while you're taking a bath. Don't just fill that time with social media, with emails, with responses, with people. To whatever ability you can, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, really give yourself that time, repeatedly and consistently, and see what comes in. And then the 4th thing, I think, is just to believe that it's going to come. So I never ever would have gotten the idea if, I put the intention and invitation out there, but then didn't really believe deep down it would come. I 100%, because of my experience writing my blog, knew that in a matter of time, it would be there. It would be in my awareness. I would get the information that I need. And so that's a big part of this as well, is just, if you're going to ask for that, if you're going to be so bold as to ask for it, you really have to believe that the universe or life or whatever you believe in is going to hold up its side of the bargain, because it will, as long as you really hold to that. And then once you get the idea, jot it down. Write down everything that you can. You might want to eventually rearrange things or cut things, or realize, what you thought it was going to be is just a whole different thing now. But I think that was a big part of it too. Whether it was my blog or my book, is as soon as I got the ideas, even little glimmers of an idea that I thought related, I would write that down. It's almost like how when you wake up in the middle of the night from a dream, and as soon as you wake up, you think, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell my partner that dream in the morning, but it's just gone by morning if you don't write it down. So I kind of think sometimes creative ideas are like that a little bit. You get these ones that come back to you over and over again for years, and that's amazing. But in the creation process, I think you also get a lot of just little fleeting glimmers that are completely gone unless you manage to capture them. So I really recommend writing them down, and then later on you'll be able to see how it all comes together and all makes sense, and integrate it into the blog post or the story or the book or the business that you desire to create. So that is this week's message. If this resonates with you, please feel free to share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you, or just shoot me a DM at Hi Jessica Johnson. But permission around setting the intention and the invitation, and kind of letting things marinate and being surprised by what comes, and part of that co-creation process. How fun is that? If this episode resonated with you, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a Bright Life workbook full of practices you can use to get clear on what your version of your brightest life looks like, and fearlessly move towards it every day. And another is a copywriter starter kit full of beginning steps to create a copywriting business that gives you the freedom to travel the world working from anywhere, to replace a corporate salary as your own boss, and to do creative work that lights you up every day. It's lessons I've learned in creating my own content business, and I'm excited to share it with you if you're curious about doing the same. I will link these in the show notes. I hope these serve you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week as we all pursue our biggest, brightest lives together.